The final module is on other issues with regard to fitness for purpose, so that when people are building the building, other things can happen to the timber aside from the weather, and sometimes this may mean that the timber is no longer fit for purpose. So again, we're looking at construction compliance. Does the construction comply with 1684 and AS 4440? And again, we're looking at ensuring that all of the construction requirements in those standards have been applied. This includes the members themselves and the connections between the members. So trusses. If your truss has a certificate at the design stage and it's by one particular manufacturer, but the trusses themselves are by a different manufacturer, then there's a problem. Okay? So that you need to go back to the builder and say, there is a problem between the documentation I had at the design stage and what I'm seeing on site. Okay? So that in order to have compliance, we must have compliance with all of these standards. There are other things that can and do go wrong on site. Now, you'll be horrified at some of the things that can happen. Actually, I'm pretty sure most of you will have seen these at some stage. Excessive cutouts, broken elements, incorrectly installed connections, incorrectly installed trusses, and our remedy is to seek the designer's advice. In some cases, a member may have been crippled, but it's not a problem, in which case the designer is going to say, it's fine. That's not an important member, I'm happy with that. In other cases, they may say, just install a bridging element, and in other cases, they may say, let's replace it. Here is a small problem. You can see that these truss cords have been notched, and there are some problems with that. This is a bird's mouth where the carpenter got really excited. Bird's mouth's no more than a third of the depth. So if you're looking at something like that, that's 50% of the depth, it's an excessive bird's mouth. And here again is a cutout for some plumbing on a floor joist that's removed about 50% of the floor joist. All of these are things that should be taken to the designer, and the designer will come up with some rectification. Broken elements. So there's some elements that have been broken as part of the construction. Is it a problem? Is it okay as it is? Again, the designer will make those kind of decisions. Non-compliant connections. Here you'll notice they've put the plate in, but there are no connectors. Okay, so that's something that can be relatively easy rectified. This is called nail plate back out. If the nail plate has backed out of the timber by less than 1 millimetre, it's not a problem. But if it's more than 1 millimetre, it should be referred back to the truss manufacturer, who will decide what to do with it. This arrow here indicates where the truss needs to be supported. It's going to be really awkward having a support in the middle of that hallway, isn't it? So that again, this is something that needs to go back to the designer, and the designer will say, oh yes, there is a problem here, here's how we're going to fix it. Okay? Trusses in 4440, it has a rectification clause, rejection criteria. Installed trusses don't comply with the certification. So if your certificate on the design certificate doesn't correspond with the trusses you're seeing on the job, then refer that back to the designer. Broken elements, degraded timber or nail plates, trusses not supported at the support location. All of these are things that should be referred back to the designer. So here's a list of rectification issues. If there are large knots or holes in the timber, it's not a rectification problem. Look for a grade mark, because timber can have large knots and or holes and still be within grades. Utility issues are something that needn't be referred back, because if the timber has been able to be used in the job, then obviously it's worked okay. Non-structural noggings. All noggings don't need to have a grade mark. They can be marked as non-structural elements. However, if elements are broken, rectification needs to be decided. If there are excessive penetrations and cutouts, again, they're things that can be decided by the designer. And the designer will come up with one of these options. For example, in this case here, where the floor joist has been cut to allow some plumbing through, it may be that a metal bracket is put on the underside of the floor joist to give continuity at that point. But these are things that the designer is going to come up with that enables the finished job to be fit for purpose. And that is our aim. In certifying timber, in inspecting the timber, we're ensuring that the final job is going to be fit for purpose and fulfill its job for the term of its natural life. To assist you, there are a number of really useful resources available, and I refer you to the Wood Solutions website, where there are design guides and a whole bunch of useful information that will help you in your inspection and certification of timber into the future.